Hey everybody, it's Julie and Dr. A back for another varieties video. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you haven't seen our series so far, I surprise him with one annual, one perennial, and one shrub. We talk about the pros and cons, get Dr. A's hot takes. So the annual I'm giving you today is dahlias.
Well, the dahlias, or as some people say, dahlias, or
Yes.
dahlias. But anyway, dahlias. It is an annual, even though for some people, you get a little bit further south, you can leave these in the ground and they will overwinter. But you're taking and there's a lot of dahlias have become a huge crop for cut flower growers, as well as obviously gardeners and landscape and all. So as far as the breeding is concerned, there was a gazillion dahlias 10 years ago, and there's a gazillion and a half this year. So there's no end to what we can do I think it's a great crop because the flowers are so beautiful. It really does lend itself to a fabulous cut flower crop because the flowers are so beautiful, you don't have to worry about the foliage. As a landscape plant, you have to worry about the foliage, and dahlias are certainly susceptible to many leaf diseases and hot climates and humid climates. In fact, where dahlias are, really most at home is in the upper Midwest into Canada and heck into Alaska for that matter. But I think as far as dahlias are concerned, the breeders have come up with what I call bedding dahlias, i.e., dahlias that are compact and they're full of flowers and they're almost treated like a bedding plant. And then, of course, the big show dahlias are what many of the cut flower people are using. So, remembering that dahlia is still a dahlia, as beautiful as it is, they're susceptible to a number of diseases. So be on the outlook for that. But the breeding is really getting good. There's just the flowers are spectacular, and everybody loves dahlias.
Yeah, those are one of my favorites for sure. It's so hard to choose a favorite plant because it's like picking one of your kids. That's your favorite. But
I
I've seen some good ones. I know Syngenta has some, Beacon Camp has some. I mean,
know.
there's plenty of breeders that make them, but there's a lot of great choices out there.
Well, and the European breeders are bringing some good stuff in for sure. And we see those people that cast every year, Julie, and it's just lovely what dahlias are coming. In the real world of wherever you happen to be, too much rain, too little rain, too hot, too cold, too whatever. They're still doing very well. Obviously, for the West Coast is where you really want to grow dahlias, and further north. But yeah, terrific plants, and you can't go too far wrong in offering dahlias.
Hmm. As for the perennial, how about Rudbeckia?
Rudbeckia it is a plant that almost anybody can be successful with. And there's not a lot of plants you can say that about. I mean, we just talked about dahlias, and they're fabulous. You can be very successful, but there's some things that are holding dahlias back. Rudbeckia is the only thing that holds Rudbeckia back is that it has become, I won't say pedestrian. It is still beautiful when it's in flower, and it's flowering in late summer, and that's a great time to be flowering. But we've gotten used to it being just a must-have plant. And so say another Rudbeckia, but the breeding in recent years of Rudbeckia, the Rudbeckia of perennial choice was always Goldstrom. And that was a great plant. And it is a great plant, but there's better plants now that I think we can replace Goldstrom with. You're still going to see people growing it. I mean, it's it's just been a workhorse for so long, but it's there's a few diseases and there's a few other things that are cropping up with Goldstrom because gosh, it was 1950s that thing was first bred.
Hmm.
So it's been around for quite some time. American Gold Rush came out a couple of years ago, and it's terrific. And there's a number of other perennial Rudbeckias that I think are just quite sensational, and that they are, and I hate to use the word pedestrian, that they are common by definition means that we are successful with them. They wouldn't be common if we were dying all over the place. So the fact is that Rudbeckias are a go-to plant. They're a native plant. I mean, the deer will get them if they're out there, but they're not deer fillet. And of course, they're a great pollinating plant. So there's very few things, very few boxes that Rudbeckia doesn't check. But they're still mostly yellow with black or yellow with brown, and there's a few others out there. But yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So you always have Rudbeckia on your landscape design list. Always have Rudbeckia on a plant that's easy for gardeners. And I don't know about where you are, Julie, but I go to see if I can find Rudbeckias at this time of year, and I cannot. And this is a time of year where you see them in the landscape and say, "Oh, I wish I had some." But again, we sell them in spring without flower, and people know what Rudbeckia is, so that's okay, I guess.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned American Gold Rush because I was just working on an article for disease-resistant varieties for the September magazine, and I reached out to the breeders and had them, submit varieties, and I got so many submissions for American Gold Rush for being disease-resistant. So I think everyone else recognizes its performance too.
Well, everybody does, because also being the perennial plant of the year last year, I mean, it's just a ton of good press over about it. And so, yeah, you're going to see a lot of it, and it's a good plant. So I'm happy.
As for the shrub today, how about roses?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
It's a risky choice.
Oh my goodness. How, regardless of how many hills and valleys the rose market goes through, people still desire roses. When we went through the awful times where every rose seemed to have powdery mildew and black spot, and the landscapers, let alone gardeners, didn't want to spray all that stuff anymore, the rose market essentially perished. And with roses, we had a resurgence. I mean, Julie, if you go into a garden center today and ask for roses, what are you going to find? What rose do
Hmm.
you think you would find, Julie, if you went to a garden center?
I
You
I see a lot of the easy elegance
see
roses,
that,
the knockout roses too.
and of course, you see you see a ton of roses today, all of which, unfortunately, for better or for worse, are starting to get this thing called rose rosette. Even the knockout roses, and that's what you see truly everywhere you go. Maybe not so much today, but 2 years ago, you couldn't buy anything but knockout roses and drifts. And some of these other ones that we see at Cast every year, they're fabulous, Brindabella, yada yada. But nevertheless, the market has been full of knockout roses. And knockout roses were a gift to us. They were wonderful growing roses. They didn't get the black spot and the mildew like the other stuff did, and they were easy to grow. Landscapers used them by the hundreds, and so that's all you could find. But unfortunately, and it's not knockout's fault, roses are susceptible to this virus called rose rosette, and that is what's happening again. So as the rose market has climbed steadily up because of knockouts and everything else on its coattails, now we're getting into this virus. And I'm telling you, I mean, maybe you don't see it, but down here, landscapers are pulling these roses out as fast as they can.
Mm.
Um, I mean, literally, mature 10-year-old, 12, 13-year-old roses are being pulled out because they look like heck. Because once this rose rosette comes in, it's tough. So you asked me about roses. I love them. Everybody loves them. I happen to like this Brindabella series because it's fragrant and still, is very, very clean. Like you say, the drifts, your elegance, all of these really cool roses are out there, and we should be trying them. I just am a little bit concerned about this rose rosette and how it's going to affect the rose market. But you can be sure that people want roses. So, and they're not going away. So I just hope that we can breed ourselves out of rose rosette in the future.
Yeah, me too. I know it takes a while for the breeding process to, become commercialized and come to market, but I'm sure they're working on something because we know that that is a challenge for the roses.
I'm afraid that's the only way we can do it. I don't, you can't, I don't know of any chemical means of stopping it, and it spreads easily. And if you got 10 roses together, one gets it, the other 9 are going to get it eventually. So here's hoping. I really want this rose market to do well. And again, for cut flowers, of course, roses are still everybody's choice.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, I think that's all for today. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for another varieties video soon.
Okay, everybody, it's just great fun to try and chat about these things. in ways that might be useful, but we'll see you in the next episode.